This is live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India's special broadcast, Prime Minister Modi's Diaspora Connect. I'm Sakal Bhatt. Well, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is on his final leg of his three-day visit to the United States of America and is all set to address the Summit of the Future at the United Nations General Assembly in New York today. We will be talking about the significance of the summit and what India actually brings to the summit table under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi. We will also be discussing the main deliverables besides big takeaways of the big-ticket diaspora event in New York. India and US progressed together. That was a big event which concluded last night. And we will be joined by subject experts and former ambassadors on this special broadcast. So let's begin. So let's first talk about the mega diaspora event in New York. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed a community program in Nassau Coliseum in New York. Electrifying gathering of over 16,000 people gave Prime Minister Modi a warm and a resounding welcome. Prime Minister, in his speech, which lasted for more than an hour, highlighted India's resolve to become Viksit Bharat, or prosperous and developed country, by the year 2047, and the invaluable role the Indian diaspora plays in cementing bilateral relationship between India and United States.
A leader and his ecstatic admirers, rise of India on the global stage, celebration of India and Indian diaspora. It was a historic day for the Indian diaspora members in Nassau County in New York as they accorded a memorable welcome to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The Nassau Coliseum reverberated with thundering applause on several occasions as Prime Minister Modi recounted the remarkable rise of India and the Indian diaspora on the global stage. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said, "India is now the land of opportunities. It doesn't wait for opportunities anymore. In fact, it creates them."
भारत आज लैंड ऑफ अपॉर्चुनिटीज है, अवसरों की धरती है। अब भारत अवसरों का इंतजार नहीं करता, अब भारत अवसरों का निर्माण करता है।
Prime Minister spoke about his vision for India's future, calling his vision Pushp, which means flower, defining each letter of the word as a path to progress and prosperity of the nation.
आपको एक शब्द याद रहेगा, पुष्प। हाँ, कमल मान लीजिए, मुझे इतराज नहीं है। पुष्प, और मैं पुष्प को डिफाइन करता हूं, P फॉर प्रोग्रेसिव भारत, U फॉर अनस्टॉपेबल भारत, S फॉर स्पिरिचुअल भारत, H फॉर ह्यूमैनिटी फर्स्ट को समर्पित भारत, P फॉर प्रोस्परस भारत, यानी Pushpa.
The Indian Prime Minister also said that for the world, AI stands for artificial intelligence, but he believes AI also represents the America-India spirit.
मैं मानता हूं कि AI का मतलब है अमेरिकन, इंडियन, अमेरिका, इंडिया, ये स्पिरिट है और वही तो नई दुनिया का AI पावर है।
Modi in Us program was attended by some 15,000 Indian American diaspora from across the United States. A mini India was created in the stadium as performers showcased the cultural diversity of India amidst jubilant audience members. As Prime Minister Narendra Modi listed the great achievements by India in the recent years, he also presented a picture of what kind of power does India aspire to be in the future, not the one that conquers, but the one that inspires. With camera person Sumit Naudiyal, Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India in New York.
In fact, members of the Indian community hailed Prime Minister Modi's speech, saying that it was inspiring to see his vision for developed India.
What appealed to me the most was the fact that he said that they don't want to push people and they don't want to suppress people. They want to grow with the world. They want to promote the world together. I think that was very exciting to hear, because as Indians we have like a very strong focus on our culture, and that's the part of our culture.
The thing which he said about India, like how India got developed in last 4 or 5 years, it's phenomenal, and the plans which is going to implement in the next 5 years is phenomenal. So I feel that India is going in the right way.
10 years of Modi's prime ministership, we are seeing chip manufacturing in India, India holding thought leadership in just so many aspects, and could not be prouder about the progress that our country has made.
He just said it in one word, AI. It stands for America, India, not just artificial intelligence. He's definitely going to bring the nation as the third seeking nation in the world, for sure. And the growth has been tremendous, that we are already in the 5th place. And I'm sure that it's going to come in the 3rd place.
On the entrepreneurship, the leadership, what he has presented, the future vision, that was very, very inspiring. So we are going to add more opportunities between US, India, and we will have the global leadership. So this was great learning from Mr. Modi ji.
When he talked about the drones, who is commanding the drones? Because drone, it's a future. And who is commanding? That's women. That women empowerment, what he talked about, that was fantastic. Because these days, women empowerment, and that to the drone technology, giving their hand into that, that's unbelievable. I think it was shocking to us.
We're very glad to be joined by Ambassador Bhaswati Mukherjee, former senior diplomat, joining us on this broadcast, and also really honoured to have Professor Swaran Singh, foreign affairs expert, joining us on this broadcast. Thank you very much, Ambassador Mukherjee and Professor Singh. Ambassador Mukherjee, to your mind, let me begin with you. What do you think are the big takeaways of Prime Minister Modi's diaspora outreach or speech? More than 1 hour, 1 hour, 10 minutes precisely. Very powerful, but at the same time, it was like a balance sheet of the last 1 decade, where Prime Minister, I think, touched upon everything almost under the sun, from 6G technology to millets, to drone Didis, to India's domestic economic and social trajectory in the last 10 years where we have reached, and very futuristic also. Opening remarks.
Absolutely. I actually, sitting here in Delhi, found it so inspiring that I can well imagine the diaspora would have been delighted, as I could see from your visuals. This is something that Prime Minister Modi started from Modi 1. Right from the beginning, he established this direct connect with the diaspora, which he has now continued now in his 3rd term 3.0. And among the important issues that he highlighted was that India is now the launching pad for opportunity. In other words, we have arrived. India has emerged. India is no longer in the position of a supplicant. India is there to offer opportunities. And I also really thought the way he elaborated on the word push and what it means is very powerful, just as the way he used AI to mean the America-India connect, apart from artificial intelligence. Again, that shows what a powerful connect he establishes immediately with his audience, which is rapturous to hear him speak. And when he does that, he also underlines, which is also very important, I would like to highlight here as a diplomat and as a historian, that India is not a land of conquest. We have never conquered. We've been colonized, but we've never conquered. And here, we don't come to conquer, we come to inspire. And what he left unsaid, but what he has always utilized, is that the most powerful soft power that India has, apart from everything else, the yoga, the music, the dance, everything else, is the diaspora. The diaspora is India's greatest soft power connect. And if you look at the season, we are running up to the US election. What an amazing time to connect with the diaspora.
Yes.
Because the Indian diaspora is playing such an important role now in every aspect of American life, including American politics.
Yes,
So
I was coming to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
No problem, ma'am. Please finish your point, and I can then hand it over to Professor Singh. Please finish your point, ma'am.
So I just wanted to say that at such an important time, November is not very far off. This was a very powerful time to connect with the diaspora because of the important role that the Indian diaspora is playing now in American politics, which is actually influencing in a very positive way the India-America Connect, the AI, as he put it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Taking this to Professor Singh now, persons of Indian origin, there are about 3.18 million, which actually constitutes the third largest Asian ethnic group in US. And poll-bound America, and you have this diaspora event, which, I mean, if you look back from 2014 to 2024, the way these diaspora events have been curated and they form such an integral part of Prime Minister's visit, particularly to United States of America. So, by and large, Professor Singh, what do you have to say about particular significance of this particular diaspora event, given the timings of it? Diaspora is a very, very important constituency out there. And from that prism, how do you see this?
I think, Saral, each emerging new power has to rewrite several ways international politics and international relations are conducted, and has to bring out innovative and very effective way its leverages are going to work. So when it comes to India, our people are strongest leverage that India has never in history of international relations. We have seen any national leader visiting a foreign country and holding as large gatherings as Indian Prime Minister does now, starting from day one of his becoming the Prime Minister of the country. And that is an entirely new way of projecting India and creating pro-India, India-friendly constituencies around the world, not just in India. And because India, as Ambassador just mentioned, is rising very rapidly as an economic power, already third largest, likely to be soon third largest, already fifth largest, soon to be third largest, growing at 8%, also makes all other interlocutors around the world more excited about engaging India, partnering India, and working with India. And the third point, I think, which is an, really fantastic addition, is our very articulate Prime Minister who connects with people, like no one else. And he can connect with people wherever he goes. And that creates a whole new enthusiasm about looking at India, engaging India, and engaging India's leaders. So this visit, in a very brief, if you look at, had an engagement at the apex level of political leadership in Quad meeting, where in that sense was a farewell Quad meeting for President Biden, who's been very powerful leader in institutionalizing Quad. Then, of course, his meetings with, round table with CEOs, inviting them to come and take India as an opportunity. And then, of course, also this meeting with Diaspora, meeting everyone who has, any connection with India, either citizens of India or people of Indian ethnic origin. Then, of course, with that fantastic backdrop is when he goes to the General Assembly to address Summit of the Future, with an enormous attention already now drawn in media around the world as to Indian Prime Minister being in New York, and then his vision as to what he thinks India can bring to the table in resolving issues of the future.
Yeah,
I think it's a fantastic way we are kind of leapfrogging, pushing India's story forward. And in that meeting with Indian diaspora, highlighting culture, tradition, connectivity, all the way connecting to the most modern advanced manufacturing technology, aspiring India, America, India, all kinds of narratives are being brought to the table, which fundamentally draws global attention to the new India story. I think that is where Prime Minister's visit and connection with diaspora, I think, is a very effective way of conducting diplomacy.
Yes, that's a very important point that you brought in, and I want to take Bhaswati ma'am's reaction on that. showcasing New India story and Viksit Bharat. At the same time, Ambassador, how do you see this whole diaspora events over the years? A key personal strategized events where I don't think in our memory any other world leader, if I may be allowed to say, has been able to draw so much of global attention. Not only diaspora event in terms of numbers, like we've had 50,000 also in Houston for Prime Minister Modi, but this whole thing becoming much bigger because it's not only confined to diaspora. Would you agree this goes beyond diaspora? The world is watching Prime Minister Modi very keenly, the world leaders, other world leaders.
But definitely, he has put his stamp in the global politics, and because of that, he has demonstrated that India is an emerged power. We are at the 5th place. We will be Viksit Bharat. We will be in the 3rd place. And the global community has accepted that India has emerged. And because India has emerged, our Prime Minister, with his unique connect, not just to the diaspora, but to the people of every country that he visits. So if you think of the warm hug that President Biden gave him and led him by the hand inside his house, it was very touching. The farewell, the emotional farewell that they gave each other. These all demonstrate qualities of leadership, of charisma, of a Prime Minister who represents a great country that has been pushed back because of colonization and which has finally emerged.
Yes.
And its inexorable march to Viksit Bharat can no longer be stopped. And that is something that is known not just to the ecstatic diaspora that we can see on your screen, but it is accepted by global leaders that India today is a force for peace, international peace and security, that India actually represents a unique heritage of soft power and of the hope that the world can progress in peace. That itself, that we represent peace, the message that Vivekananda brought to Chicago so many years ago, that is the message that our Prime Minister continues to bring today. And that is so inspiring when we see his connect, not just with the diaspora, but with the leaders that he meets, how they reach out eagerly to him, how they want to listen to him. These are all indications that he has actually, in his own unique way, brought India to the world arena and has demonstrated to the world that it's a different India today. As he said, the land of opportunities, the launching pad of opportunities, the push that he pushed. The push is very beautiful because the push is the flower that is going to bloom and is going to show India blooming. And as we can see from the balloons and all the rest that we see on your...
We were trying to just revisit some of the moments at the Madison Square event, how it started in 2014. I mean, we can just continue talking about it before we play that Prime Minister's remarks on the New India. We can have those visuals again, how it started in 2014. Prime Minister addressing the 20,000 strong crowd at New York again. That was the first diaspora reach. Can we play those visuals, please, on your screen? And then after that, 2016 was also no less bigger, where okay, perfect. 2016, India reached in high numbers to shake hands and take selfies with Prime Minister. By the way, this also became news at a civic reception when he visited Silicon Valley in California in 2016. It was a second diaspora event of Prime Minister Modi. That's on your screen, Silicon Valley, California, 2016. And let's now move on and also revisit what happened in 2019. Here, Prime Minister also addressed the diaspora, and then 2019, one of the biggest community events. It was pitched like that. It was dubbed as Howdy Modi, which garnered so much of international attendance. 50,000 people in Houston, Texas reportedly attended that. And of course, in 2021, this is Silicon Valley, we can play Howdy Modi visuals also. In 2021, Indian diaspora at the Andrews Joint Air Force Base was another event, another big diaspora event. And then 2023, International Trade Center in Washington, D.C. played host to yet another humongous diaspora event. That's Houston, Texas 2019 for you. As we stay with these file shots, Professor Singh, it can't get bigger than this.
Indeed, Saril, of course, I must also underline that while we often mention and note the bigger gatherings more often, it's also equally important to underline Indian Prime Minister doesn't miss this opportunity wherever he goes, even to smaller countries. For example, Papua New Guinea, or more recently, let's say, he was in Poland, he was in Ukraine. Also, that connect with the people of Indian diaspora is a very important priority for his visits. And that is bringing a whole new self-confidence in the identity that Indians abroad have. For example, recently in Ukraine, because of India's, decision not to condemn Russia, there are about 2,500 Indians who permanently live in Ukraine had become more or less target of a lot of criticism domestically. And when Indian Prime Minister went there, he visited and he met Indians of Indian diaspora. He played floral tribute to Mahatma Gandhi's statue there. The whole relationship of the Ukrainians with those Indian people of Indian origin changed.
Yes.
So the confidence and pride in that identity of being an Indian, which again, Prime Minister keep talking of getting rid of colonial mindset.
Right.
And taking pride in your heritage. And I think that is across the world in all his visits.
Right.
And
yes.
that shows his conviction in showcasing the connection India has around the world.
And that India, which is unbeatable and unstoppable. And talking about New India, Ambassador Bhaswati and Professor Singh requesting you to stay with us. Let's listen in to Prime Minister Modi when he said that India will play an important role in enhancing global growth and much more.
आज का भारत दुनिया में एक नए कैटलिक एजेंट की तरह उभर रहा है और इसका प्रभाव हर सेक्टर में दिखेगा। ग्लोबल ग्रोथ के प्रोसेस को तेज करने के लिए भारत का रोल अहम होगा। ग्लोबल पीस के प्रोसेस को तेज करने के लिए भारत का रोल अहम होगा। ग्लोबल क्लाइमेट एक्शन को स्पीड अप करने में भारत का रोल अहम होगा। ग्लोबल स्किल गैप को दूर करने में भारत का रोल अहम होगा। ग्लोबल इनोवेशंस को नई दिशा देने में भारत का रोल अहम होगा। ग्लोबल सप्लाई चेन में स्टेबिलिटी के लिए भारत का भूमिका अहम होगा। साथियों, भारत के लिए शक्ति और सामर्थ्य का अर्थ है, भारत के लिए शक्ति और सामर्थ्य का अर्थ है ज्ञानाय, दानाय, च रक्षणाय। यानी नॉलेज इज फॉर शेयरिंग, वेल्थ इज फॉर कैरिंग, पावर is for protecting.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi also spoke about how embracing diversity is part of Indian culture and how unity in diversity is India's greatest strength.
मां भारती ने जो हमें सिखाया है वो हम कभी भी भूल नहीं सकते। हम जहां भी जाते हैं सबको परिवार मानकर उनसे घुल मिल जाते हैं। डायवर्सिटी को समझना, डायवर्सिटी को जीना, उसे अपने जीवन में उतारना ये हमारे संस्कारों में है, हमारी रगों में है। हम उस देश के वासी हैं जहां सैकड़ों भाषाएं हैं, सैकड़ों बोलियां हैं, दुनिया के सारे मत है, पंथ है, फिर भी हम एक बनकर, नेक बनकर आगे बढ़ रहे हैं।
In fact, Prime Minister Modi appreciated the role of Indian diaspora in connecting and cementing the ties between India and US.
आपने अमेरिका को भारत से और भारत को अमेरिका से कनेक्ट किया है। आपका स्किल, आपका टैलेंट, आपका कमिटमेंट, इसका कोई मुकाबला नहीं है। आप 7 समंदर पार भले आए गए हैं, लेकिन कोई समंदर इतना गहरा नहीं जो दिल की गहराइयों में बसे हिंदुस्तान को आपसे दूर कर सके।
You're watching the special broadcast, Prime Minister Modi's Diaspora Connect, our rolling coverage on Prime Minister Modi's visit to United States of America. We are going to take a short break. I would request our panelists to stay put. A very short break. On the other side, we're also going to talk about the next big event, the Summit of the Future at the United Nations, which Prime Minister is going to be addressing today evening there in New York. What India is going to bring to the table, the summit table, and much more on the other side. Stay with us.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome to Jaipur.
Thanks for staying with us on this special broadcast, Prime Minister Modi's Diaspora Connect. Bhaswati Mukherjee, former senior diplomat and former ambassadors with us on the show, as well as Professor Swaran Singh, foreign affairs expert, also there. Ambassador Bhaswati, ma'am, going a little away from the diaspora part and talking about the overall optics, or rather the significance of this visit, how do you define it in terms of the multipolarity of Prime Minister's this visit to US? It had a multilateral aspect related to it, a bilateral or a pluralistic aspect also related to it. Of course, diaspora is always a headline when Prime Minister is in the US. But what is it that sets this visit apart from his earlier visits to US?
Well, first and foremost, it's important to understand that India has emerged as a truly important strategic partner of the United States because we share the same security concerns in the Indo-Pacific. That was clear from the Quad meeting. That was also clear from the fact that although the Quad document carefully skirted around specific mention of a military partnership, but if you read in language into words, as professionals we are trained to do, it is clear that the Quad itself has moved ahead as far as ensuring that rule-based order in the Indo-Pacific has to be maintained and will be maintained. That language which has moved substantially from past language. The other issue is the whole question of semiconductors, very important for India. And semiconductors is something essential for our own national security interests. There we have moved far ahead. We have also been given assurances regarding transfer of sensitive technology. That's very important for us. And in return, the outgoing US president made it clear that the United States, regardless of who is in power and which party is in power,
yes,
United States regards India as a very important strategic partner in a part of the world where United States is facing growing challenges from an emerged China and believes that an emerging India along with the US, along with the Quad, has the necessary potential to be able to checkmate an emerged China should that emerged China become a threat to international peace and security, particularly in the Indo-Pacific, through most of which world trade moves. And world trade moves in a manner that cannot be delayed. So that if there are serious blockages, for instance, on the Taiwan Strait, or in the South China Sea, or near the Indian Ocean, or on the Indian Ocean, these are issues which impact American security and which impact India's security, which impact the security of the Quad members. So I would say actually that in the Quad hierarchy, we have actually moved up from where we are to be right next to United States, and we are going to be hosting
it next year. Yes, and having said that, Professor Singh, India's sway and influence at the Quad, that India is now in a position to give a fresh framework where Quad grouping is or will not be just confined to addressing a very pressing military issue or how you contain China. Well, it seems that this combine of India-US has it's going to be a new framework, a new vision with India leading the way.
Already, Cyril, a lot of experts speak about how Quad has a very unique and special India imprint on it. Because starting with the Shangri-La speech of Indian Prime Minister in June 1st of 2018, where Prime Minister had defined India's Indo-Pacific vision, saying we don't want to see the region militarized, and we do not want to see the region becoming an exclusive club of any few nations. Indeed, many people believe that because India stood firmly that they don't want to see Quad militarizing, which of course during President Trump's period, Pompeo used to often speak about in that language, they had to create a separate AUKUS, Australia, US, UK framework, which looks at military power projections vis-a-vis Chinese, and a whole range of working groups, 6 working groups, which now Quad leaders have, at best talk about non-traditional security. That's one. So already there is a strong opinion of India imprint on Quad. Second very important point to look at this particular Quad summit is that President Joe Biden, who's known as the force behind institutionalizing of Quad, you remember, he, within 2 months of taking over presidency in 2021, had started with online summit and followed in September of 2021 offline in-person summit meeting. And they have held 4 summit meetings since then and 8 foreign ministers meetings. So US has been institutionalizing Quad. But remember, Joe Biden is now on his way to complete his term, and we will still have to see who is the next president in the United States, Kamala Harris or Donald Trump. Similarly, Japanese leader also, Fumio Kishida, is already decided that he's stepping down. He's not looking for re-election. Shinzo Abe was the strongest voice from Japan for Quad, and of course, over time, Fumio Kishida had stepped in and taken responsibility. But again, we don't know who is the next leader. So that puts enormous onus then on Indian leadership of Quad, if I dare say that, to continuously keep that momentum that Quad has built over a period of time. So in that sense, I think India has a very specific responsibility, at least during the transition. And I want to underline the fact that during 2007, when the Quad ultimately went in a dormant state, virtually sleeping for a decade, one trigger was the change of leadership in Australia and Japan. So it could be a similar, very, very precarious moment of new leaders emerging in Japan and the United States.
Okay.
United States and Japan will take some time to gear up, and India will provide that continuity in that sense in taking forward Quad momentum.
Okay. And also, Ambassador Mukherjee, talking about the continuity of this new transformative India-US relationship, whosoever comes up next, how do you see that? And talking about President Biden and Prime Minister Modi's, the warmth, the body language that we've seen, in earlier visit also, which was state visit, a historic visit, where President Biden has also remarked that this is one of the most consequential relationships of the world, the way, it has evolved between India and US, and particularly between the two of them. So in terms of continuity from here on, how do you see this?
I see a continuity which is irrespective of who wins the election. Okay. Because I covered for Doordarshan the famous visit of President Trump to India. And I found it just amazing. The connect between President Trump and Prime Minister Modi. Just as the connect between President Biden and our Prime Minister is amazing. So it really doesn't matter who is going to win the election. India-US connect, the AI, as our Prime Minister said, America-India, there to stay. Now the question here arises that will it matter that it's President Trump or it's Vice President Kamala Harris who becomes president? In my perspective, that so much has been done to consolidate the relationship in different ways, and in addition, you have the very strong Indian diaspora, which is very prominent in both parties, Democrats and Republicans. It's not as if they are spread out thin in one party or the other. They are present, they are funding both parties, both election campaigns. So from that perspective, I would say that regardless of who wins the election, it would be a connect that would continue. If you ask me from a personal perspective, earlier, before the US-India connect became so powerful, we found that it was easier to handle these relationships when Republicans were in power with Democrats, for certain issues on which Democrats have particular perspectives. But now, looking at the kind of warm relationship that we have developed with Democrats across the board, I would reiterate that whether a Republican president comes to power or a Democratic president continues the democratic tradition, the ties are so strong that they cannot be affected adversely at all. In fact, they will go from strength to strength. The challenges that the United States faces in our part of the world and in the Pacific increase, they would rely more and more on us as a balancing power, because we are a balancing power. We are a force for peace and international security, and that is only going to increase.
India assuming the role of peacemaker, Professor Singh, look at the recent visits of Prime Minister, and you've got Russia, Ukraine, Brunei, then you have Austria, and then you have Singapore, and then US. In that perspective, how do you see this visit?
I think, Saral, first of all, India has always been a very powerful voice for peacemaking, peace building, peacekeeping. In fact, throughout India's post-independence period or history, a very important contributor to UN peacekeeping from late 1950s onwards. And now, more recently, of course, we are noticing a very subtle, very modest, behind the closed doors, India's efforts to accelerate the peace process when it comes to resolving the Ukraine crisis is also becoming more and more talk of town now. But when it comes to India-US relationships, I think it is important to underline that the friendship and the partnership has very strong bipartisan consensus in the United States. So one can only pinpoint as into each presidency what was the kind of ground shaking or game-changing kind of initiative that happened. For example, during Trump period, we can see how the whole focus on Indo-Pacific brought India into that major game-changing initiatives and creating of Quad again, becoming a driver of how stability, security, and free and open Indo-Pacific has to be maintained. During the Joe Biden period, I think one can pinpoint, I will say, ISET, for example, initiative in critical and emerging technologies, which has a whole spectrum of working together in strategic cooperation, from startups to military cooperation, military joint production, exchanges. So a whole range of things have happened. But let me also underline, there was also this recent period of pandemic when, whole world was under stress, and that did impact that, they could have moved much forward, much faster. And that really decelerates slightly the kind of progression that could have been possible in India-US relations, but we are back into action now. I think momentum is taking up, and we can notice.
And in that momentum, sir, if I may quickly ask from both of you, role of diaspora to take it to next level. How do you see that? Though Prime Minister himself hailed their role yesterday in his address.
Clearly, I think diaspora, if you look at different countries have different kinds of diaspora. Indian diaspora is very heavy on capacity and skill building that they showcase. So they are doctors, professors, scientists, technicians. That means that they are middle class, upper middle class, and very aspirational group of people who are very active. So you can see their visibility in politics. You can see their visibility in arts and aesthetics. You can see their visibility in business and corporations. So they are fast-moving diaspora in the United States compared to several other diaspora that we see in the United States. And with the aspirational India, that connection, I think, is going to be mutually beneficial in taking forward the relationship. And that is why this pride that Indians now showcase and feel of their identity being Indians is very clearly visible in the also new confidence that India has. And that's why I keep saying that bridge building between Indian, diaspora around the world is creating India-friendly and pro-India constituencies, which is going to catapult India's story much faster around the world. It's easier to connect for India today because we have enormous 24, 26 million people around the world who now are increasingly getting very confident, very proud of connecting with their motherland or of their connection. And I think that is going to be mutually beneficial. In fact, that is how you see now we are opening 2 more consulates in Boston and Los Angeles. That means activity of connectivity is really expanding.
So this largest diaspora in the world with an over 35 million people, at least 35 million people residing outside India. Ambassador Mukherjee, there are about 4.4 million Indian Americans or Indian origin people who reside in US. And in fact, Bhaswati, Mukherjee ma'am and Professor Singh, we have this video which actually captures, in fact, some special, very, very special moments of Prime Minister's address at the community event yesterday when Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in fact, highlighted the new India's story, India's vibrant democracy, significant economic growth, the commitment to global partnership, some of the moments of Prime Minister's diaspora address amidst resounding cheers in between when Prime Minister was speaking. Take a look.
top-notch flows, get the most, not the lesser.
तिरंगा घर घर तिरंगा हर घर तिरंगा घर घर तिरंगा everybody घर घर तिरंगा घर घर तिरंगा
आपका यह प्यार ये मेरा बहुत बड़ा सौभाग्य है। भाषा अनेक है लेकिन भाव एक है और वो भाव है भारत माता की। आज करोड़ों भारतीयों की एस्पिरेशन भारत की ग्रोथ को ड्राइव कर रही है। हर एस्पिरेशन नए अचीवमेंट को जन्म देती है। ग्लोबल ग्रोथ के प्रोसेस को तेज करने के लिए भारत का रोल अहम होगा। ग्लोबल पीस के प्रोसेस को तेज करने के लिए भारत का रोल अहम होगा। ग्लोबल क्लाइमेट एक्शन को स्पीड अप करने में भारत का रोल अहम होगा। ग्लोबल स्किल गैप को दूर करने में भारत का रोल अहम होगा। ग्लोबल इनोवेशंस को नई दिशा देने में भारत का रोल अहम होगा। ग्लोबल सप्लाई चेन में स्टेबिलिटी के लिए भारत का भूमिका अहम होगा। अब भारत अवसरों का इंतजार नहीं करता, अब भारत अवसरों का निर्माण करता है। P फॉर प्रोग्रेसिव भारत, U फॉर अनस्टॉपेबल भारत, S फॉर स्पिरिचुअल भारत, H फॉर ह्यूमैनिटी फर्स्ट को समर्पित भारत, P फॉर प्रोस्परस भारत, यानी पुष्प। पुष्प की 5 पंखुड़ियों को मिलाकर ही विकसित भारत बनाएंगे।
Okay, let's go back to our panelists. One final comment as far as the Diaspora Connect is concerned. Ma'am, if you remember, yesterday's event started with the national anthem of United States of America, followed by India. And I think that was also very symbolic. Both of you. Ambassador Bhaswati first.
Well, it's normal when we go to another country that we first hear their national anthem and then ours. It's always inspiring to hear our own national anthem. And I wanted to add that what is unique about our diaspora, having posted in New York myself many years ago to the permanent mission, is that our diaspora has seamlessly merged with the American dream. It works us like a sore thumb. We maintain our cultural identity. We are proud of the fact that we are of Indian origin, but we also merge seamlessly with the American dream, which is why the Indian diaspora today is so readily accepted by the broad masses of American people. America is a land of immigrants. It has many cultures, many civilizations which have gone to make this great country, the United States of America. And in that, Indian diaspora has played and is playing a key role, and they regard themselves as both Americans and Indians, which is why what Prime Minister said is so significant. He said AI, because they should be, and they are both American and Indian.
Correct.
They should associate with the dreams of America, and they should participate in emerging India. That is the uniqueness of our
Right.
That is its strength, in fact. That's why I said that our soft power is unique. I'm very proud sitting here in Delhi and watching our visuals, because you understand what kind of impact we have now globally.
Absolutely.
30 years ago.
Absolutely, undoubtedly. Professor Singh, your take?
I think tomorrow, as Indian Prime Minister addresses the Summit of Future, the absence of President Putin and President Xi Jinping is going to bring enormous limelight on what India's leader has to give to the world and how India sees what are the challenges and how India wants to resolve those global challenges in future. And I think that is something that has already, the groundswell has already been created during the Quad meeting, during meeting with Diaspora and with the CEOs, roundtable of CEOs. And you heard Indian Prime Minister saying that he wants to see made in India semiconductor chips being used in the United States. So enormous upsurge in enthusiasm of young India, and he mentioned India being a young country as well. That is making India equally very attractive to several countries around the world, including United States.
Okay, one quick take on the next event that is lined up, and Prime Minister will be addressing the Summit of the Future at United Nations in New York. Overall, how do you see this, Ambassador Bhaswati? What does India bring to the summit table? I think this is one of the much awaited address of the Prime Minister. There, you would agree.
Absolutely. Summit of the Future is very important in a conflict-ridden world where there are strong crowds which have gathered on both sides of the European continent, and where there is danger of a wider global conflagration unless steps are taken urgently to bring back international peace and security. So what does the Summit of the Future mean? As far as India is concerned, as Prime Minister said, this is not the era of war. India stands for peace. India will do whatever it takes to ensure that peace prevails. For that reason, our Prime Minister undertook that very challenging train journey from Poland to Kiev to Ukraine. He had earlier gone to Moscow, and he has always said that India is ready to do its bit to try and bring back peace in the world, and particularly in the context of Russia-Ukraine. In the context too of what's happening, we have always said that we stand for peace.
You know, yes, ma'am. And at the core of the summit, I think we really need to touch upon this as well, the fact that it outlines to make Council, United Nations Security Council, more effective, India's candidature in terms of India's candidature, reforming of UNSC is something we have been talking about. And I think it is now the time, Professor Singh. Now is the time for India.
I absolutely agree with you, Sakal. India has already been 8 times non-permanent member sitting in UN Security Council. That shows enormous credibility that India has in sitting on that high table. And I think now I talk in a very different way. I argue that it's the time now when it is not the credibility of India which is in question. It is now the credibility of UN Security Council.
Yes.
If they do not have India as a permanent member with a veto as one among them, then I think the issue is now more about UN Security Council's credibility rather than India's credibility. And India goes there, in the future summit tomorrow with, enormous credentials of international solar lands, international biofuels coalition, all sort of other initiatives recently in peace, accelerating peace process in Ukraine. And of course, a whole lot of other things that India is doing now, 4th largest in terms of unicorns in India. So in that sense, I think India's visibility tomorrow, and I did underline the fact that President Putin and President Xi Jinping are not there, which brings enormous focus on what leader of India is going to speak tomorrow in the future summit and what compared for the future they're going to sign. And I think that is making India really very effective and very attractive for the rest of the world to engage. And since India already has said we are looking at 2047 as a target for Viksit Bharat, that we're already looking at how India's future is connected to global futures. And if global stability, peace, prosperity, as Prime Minister keeps saying, is ensured, India's prosperity is also ensured, or reverse argument would be that if 1.4 billion people on the planet, which are in India, are given stability, prosperity and good life, part of the planet already is prosperous, happy and stable in that sense. But the connectivity of India trying to ensure global prosperity and peace, and seeing India's prosperity is peace in that larger canvas, is being repeatedly underlined. And I think the world understands India's vision increasingly, that India is committed to what India says.
That reminds me, Honorable Prime Minister's opening line yesterday, that Namaste has become international, Namaste has become global. And I think we're really waiting what really India brings to the summit table today. And day 3, you know, it's the event which takes the center stage. We on DD India will continue our rolling coverage on Prime Minister Modi's visit to the United States of America. Meanwhile, thank you very much, Ambassador Bhaswati and Professor Singh. It was such a pleasure talking to both of you on this special broadcast. Namaste. Thank you. And with that, it's time to wrap up this broadcast, Prime Minister Modi's Diaspora Connect. On the other side, news and updates continue on your channel, DD India. Stay with us.